Hi, this is Sean, and in this lesson we're going to talk about how to learn to improvise properly so that you actually have some freedom. This lesson is for you if you're not even sure how to begin building improvisation phrases, or maybe you're copying licks and downloading people's PDFs, but you know it's not really getting you any improvisation freedom. Please do hit like on this video. It really helps to spread the word on YouTube so I can do more of this for you. And please do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know when I upload new content. And with that, I'm ready to begin. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is being fit for improvisation. The majority of people who come to me and say, I can play, but I can't improvise. But when we look into their playing, they're actually playing something like this. They may take a tune that people know. What should we take today? Let's take Autumn Leaves. So they might say, I can play. There's no rhythm going on, so there's nothing to build on. And they don't know what the chord progressions are. They don't know that they're playing 2/5s to majors or 2/5s to minors and what the configuration of a minor 2/5 is. I teach this stuff on YouTube. I'll link some related lessons below so you can have a look. But those sorts of things, being fit for improv, having rhythm down, knowing tunes, not having to think about what you're playing in terms of chords so that you have freedom to improvise over that. That itself is a journey, and I rehabilitate people in my Developing Fluency course on jazz skills, where we drill the progressions, we drill them in different keys, we drill tunes that use those progressions, we make sure that you're learning them with assessments before moving you on to the next level. Knowing things like your chords inside out, knowing scales, all that sort of stuff. There isn't anything present in jazz that takes place without a scale, whether it's building improv lines, whether it's playing chords, movements, the whole lot. So this is based on a scale. Two different scales. This is based on a scale. So to summarize that part, I cannot overemphasize how important it is to be playing jazz from the perspective of the composer and the chord progressions and what they're doing so that we have something to improvise over. It's not about just playing the melody in a different way and saying you're improvising. You want to get away from the melody. So how do we do it? Well, to answer that question, I find it most useful to say, what is improvisation? It's not making it up as you go along. It's not rehearsed. So for me, it's spontaneous composition. It's using the skills of composition spontaneously on the spot, which is great because it means we can practice the skills of composition. We don't need to know exactly what's happening next. But then on the other hand, we can never know exactly what's going to happen, because I'm certainly not playing a series of licks that are over rehearsed and then hoping that they come up in my playing. In fact, that's not what I'm doing at all. That's not how I teach at all. But what we can practice is two key things. Number one, building short phrases. So to be able to make just the smallest phrases. Simple little stuff, and developing it. Once you develop simple things, the magic can start to happen. But just looking for the coolest stuff all the time is a loser's game. The way you win at this is to take the simplest things, develop them, and every now and then some real magic will show up. And of course, most people don't do that. They try and just find the coolest things and copy them and never develop the skills of putting one foot in front of the other. I often ask students, how often do you think that I play a phrase that is really important to me and magical? And they might say, oh, I don't know, 10%, 20%, 30%. No, if I play for an hour, I'm lucky if one or two of those phrases are, for me, wow phrases that I wish I could stop and write down. The rest of the time, I have to be able to put one foot in front of the other. And my one foot in front of the other might be different to yours or somebody else's, and that's fine. But you have to have ways to do that so that you can lay the conditions for the magic to happen when it wants to. So we're going to look at building some of those short phrases today. And the other thing that we can do is make connections between phrases so that we're not stop-starting every time the chord changes. What normally happens is if people are playing something like Take the A Train, and then when it's time for improv, you can still hear that they're doing that, rather than getting away from the tune, because all the phrases will be so the breaths are all in the same place, whereas we would prefer to really get away from that. That's maybe for another day, but it's just something to keep in mind. I'd also like to mention at this point that learning to improvise is not about, for me, taking the song and trying to play improvisation all over it until you end up with something that's so rehearsed or you're just struggling to keep up. For me, it's about just taking not even a chord progression first. I would do it this way. Number one, just learn to build little phrases in a scale. That's what we're going to do today. Number two, learn to play those over progressions. Number three, learn to use them in the progressions that show up in tunes. And number four, be able to just doodle all over a tune to start with, so you can zoom in to those areas where you want to make improvements. So let's get into making some scale patterns. I'm going to do some stuff that's completely unrehearsed so that we can see the kind of thing we would do with Jazz Skills members. So let's take the C major scale. Let's just take 4 notes. Simple stuff, right? Okay, so what do I do with this as a starting point? This is where most new improvisers will just say, oh, that's a rubbish idea, even if it's their own idea. No, what about cool ideas? You get those by exploring all ideas. So the first thing I would do is say, okay, that's 4 notes in the scale. I'm just using the C major scale, by the way. This is 3, 4, 5, 6 in the C major scale. So I'm going to see if I can play it through the scale. Starting on the 1, 2, starting on the 3, E, on the 4, F, etc. Right? This isn't hard. But could you do this in other keys? And you don't have to do everything in 12 keys at this stage. Okay, now development. What are we going to do? Let's put a half step underneath the first note. So you can see in this case that B is a half step under C, but it's also a scale note. But when we go to D, we're going to see that we're using a half step because we're going to do this, not a scale note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. Try and keep them in time as you go, because improv is about time as well. It's essential. Without time, we don't know where we are. Okay, fine, we've already got something. Alright, this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep the same idea, but instead of going up a scale note at the end, I'm going to go up a third in the scale. A third isn't 3 notes, guys. A third is 2 notes. 1, 3. So these are all thirds through the scale, okay? So I'm just going to switch my idea a little bit like this. Space that third at the top, right? Can I do this through the scale? Okay, great. And we could continue through the whole scale. Okay. Now I'm going to put a scale note above the last note. Watch this. Okay. Gonna have to think about this. We're already getting some things that you could play. That's a 2-5-1, D minor 7 G7 to C major. You know, so these phrases, you'll start to hear progressions in them as you work on those things more. Okay, this time let's have a new phrase. Let's go up a scale and down, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3. But at the end, let's put a chord. So in the key of C, these are all chords. So it would be up a chord from here. I'm not going to play it as a chord, I'll play it more as an arpeggio so the notes don't leak into each other. In improv we want clean notes. On the piano, unfortunately or fortunately, we're able to play more than one note at a time, which you can't on a saxophone. So we want to keep things clean, right? Be aware of the time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Most people will play that phrase but not be aware of the time. Then try it from different points. So say if I do it from the second. Okay, that could be a great thing for a D minor 7 to G7. Then improvise the end. You know what's going to happen with newer players? They're going to miss the chord change and put it in the wrong place. So be aware of where it is and be solid. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Then I just came down a scale, but improvise your way out. Something I really like in improv practice is where something is fixed and something is open for you to do some work as well. So improvise it differently each time. So let me just do a few a bit quicker. Okay, here's another. See, I can just keep adding different things at the end, and it enforces the phrase, it enforces your time, and it enforces a little bit of improv as well. And then phrases are more likely to actually come into your playing because they've been seen from many different angles. Let's cut off a note this time. So we'll take the same phrase and cut off the first note. So what used to be 1 and 2 and 3 becomes 1 and 2 and 3. Everything else the same down the scale. Things like that, little things can be so effective. So if we do it at speed, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Pretty simple. How about if we substitute the original scale note that we cut off for a half step under the E, right? Great. So this is my point. As you get good at just building little phrases up and down a scale, adding half steps, cutting off notes, adding chords in, you'll begin to become adept at just building a phrase in a scale, and do it in different keys, obviously, and then you'll be able to put them over the common progressions in tunes, because you'll be aware of the common progressions in tunes if you study them, and if you play music from that perspective. I have videos on that too. Let's be honest about it. Most people who try and learn jazz get spoken to like they're all advanced students, advanced concepts only. So to summarize, don't just play things that you think are cool. Develop things until they become cool, and then you'll become a good composer in real time. I hope that was helpful for you, and if you enjoyed that, we have lots more on building phrases for Jazz Skills members, plus how to become fluent in the first place, how to learn tunes from the perspective of a composer and know the progressions that are common in each tune, movements, improvisation, accompanying, learning styles, you name it, plus individual help. So that's on Jazz Skills. Thanks for watching this one. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye for now.